ancestors worked hard, and there wasn't much to spare. So if they wanted new clothes, they made them. It was just that simple. And their handwork often became heirlooms, handed down from generation to generation. Maybe life is easier today, and maybe we are in a bigger hurry, but we can still take time to create heirlooms, and that is time worth spending.
Heirlooms by Design with Sharon LoMonaco is sponsored by Capital Imports, your passport for fine lace, embroideries, and fabrics, by OmniGrid, the most accurate and versatile products for the quilter, artist, and craftsperson, and by Quilts Plus, your authorized Bernina dealer. Now, here's Sharon.
Hi, I'm Sharon LoMonaco. Thanks for joining me on Heirlooms by Design. I have an exciting and fun project to share with you today. Today we're going to make corded baskets on our sewing machine. There's a lot of different things that we can make with our sewing machine and the basket cording, and we'll take a look at them as soon as we come back.
Sharon will be right back.
To begin with, let's take a look at the supplies that you'll need to make corded baskets by the sewing machine. First, you'll need 1/2 to 1 yard of calico fabric. Now this should be 100% cotton because we're going to be cutting this on the bias, and blends tend to ravel somewhat. The other things you'll need are, first of all, our craft cord. This craft cord has an interfacing-like filling that makes it easy for the needle to go through. It also is a diameter that will easily fit under most of our sewing machines. I'll be sewing with a size 90 needle. A 90 is a good strong needle and will easily penetrate the craft cord. We'll also be using some invisible nylon. Now this is a very fine nylon thread, and our stitches will be just almost invisible. We're going to be sewing on a light colored fabric today, so I'm using the light colored thread. It also is available in a smoke color for those dark fabrics, so you'll not be able to see the thread. We'll also be using a little glue stick. We don't use the glue stick a whole lot, just enough for a little bit of convenience. Now let's go over to the sewing machine and see how it is to sew corded baskets on your sewing machine. Now let's get started cutting our fabric for our corded baskets. First, I'd like to review the different parts of the fabric that you have. I have cut a 1/2 yard. It's 45 inches wide by 18 inches long. The edge that goes with the selvage is the straight of grain. The edge that goes perpendicular to it at a 90-degree angle is the cross grain. What we want is a 45-degree angle down the middle. That's the bias. I'm going to be cutting bias strips. And to do this, I'm going to first find the bias edge of my fabric, and I can do that by just folding the corner down. Our ruler will also show us where that bias edge is. And I'm going to fold this up so that it's a little more manageable. Now I know that I have a nice straight edge across this fold, and I'm going to line this one up with it. This is our bias edge, as well as this right here. So when I cut at a straight grain, it's going to come out and be a bias strip. And I folded this in half so that we can cut them quickly. First, I'll square this off with the right-hand side of my rotary cutter. And then I'm going to switch. I'll be cutting 1-inch strips, so I'm going to switch to use my left hand. That's the nice thing about these cutters and rulers, is that you can change hands. This ruler can be read from the left or the right, which is very convenient. We just need to cut all of this fabric into half-inch strips. Some of them will be longer strips than others, and there will be areas where we need a short piece and areas where we need a long piece when we're changing colors. I'm going to just continue cutting, and when we come back, we'll start our baskets. We're going to begin by preparing our cord. When it comes out of the bag, the ends tend to fray somewhat, and you can see the interfacing on the inside. I don't know if this is exactly interfacing, but that certainly is what it looks like. We're going to prepare this with a piece of Scotch tape. We're simply going to put a little piece right around the end, roll it up, and now we're going to cut in the middle. And this gives us a nice, neat edge that we're going to be able to begin wrapping our fabric on. So let's select a nice long piece. And I'll need to cut my ends, both of them, at a 90-degree angle. And we'll put a little bit of glue on. We don't want too much glue, but enough to make it stick to the end of our cord. Place this at an angle and fold your fabric over. And that glue just holds that in there real well. A little more glue on. And just start wrapping. And we have a nice, neat, tidy little end. If you'd like to, you can put a pin through it just to secure the edge. Now I'm going to continue to wrap my cord, and right about now I could really use an extra hand. So we'll secure this in my third hand. That's this little gem, and I can continue wrapping. I'm pulling the fabric a little taut because I want it to be real snug around the craft cord. If it's not very snug, then when we roll the cord around on itself, we'll have little gaps of fabric sticking up, and we don't want that. When we get to the end of our fabric, and we're just about there right now, it's time to join a new piece of fabric. I'm going to put a little glue on, not too much, and smooth it down. And at this point, we can reposition our third hand. Now I've already trimmed the edges off of this piece, so it's just ready to wrap. Just overlap it a little bit, half to a quarter of an inch is all we need, just so that we don't see any of the craft cord peeking through. And if you'd like to be sure that this is not going to slip before the glue dries, just put a little pin in there. I like to wrap about 5, 6, 7 feet of craft cord to begin with, and that will be enough to do the base of my basket. So while I continue to wrap, we'll be right back.
We'll be back right after this message.
Well, Hollis, it looks like you have just brought oodles of goodies with you for us to play with, but where do we begin?
Well, we could first. I want to say something about quilt making, and so that our viewing audience might know a little bit where we are. Probably when my grandmother quilted, and certainly my aunts, she had very few tools and equipment like we have today. Maybe a needle, and there probably was not much choice in size. A sad iron, no electricity
And that's
then.
a sad iron.
One spool of thread, or maybe a black spool also, and then some fabric that was either left from dressmaking or more likely from feed bags. But today, quilt making is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and we all hope that we can afford the latest tool. And that's what I brought today to show, some of those things here on the table. And of course, later on in the series, we'll be talking about each of these individually and how they fit in to quilt making in general. Let me give you an example. I have 13 magazines there that are devoted specifically to quilt making.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
13 of them.
And tell me how many articles you've written in those.
Well, I've done one or two in those. I write an article occasionally for them. Fabrics by the hundreds and hundreds of patterns. Pencils, needles now of every description, books. When I started quilting back in the 70s, there seemed to be a goal to get every new book that was published about quilting.
I think that goal is still going on.
Is it still going on? Yes. Well, my wife says that yes, it's going on because it's in the shelf in my workroom is where they are. But quilt books of all kinds of description, regular patterns, traditional patterns, and all the new cutting techniques. Rotary cutters and rulers, special things here. Threads, we no longer quilt with just cotton threads, but all kinds of metallic threads that are available today.
Well, and that's because we no longer quilt with just that manual needle.
That's right.
We also have sewing machines.
Also have the sewing machine. And again, today we don't have a machine that you do up and down
That's
with
right.
the treadle, but the latest computer technology. And even a product like this, which is a pre-printed quilt top on cotton that we then just quilt, wash the lines out, and then we have a wonderful heirloom type quilt. So this is what we'll be talking about during the series, and I think that this gives us an idea now of the array of products that are available for the quilt maker.
Well, that's wonderful, and I can't wait to see what each of these does.
Well, it's exciting.
There's more to come, so stay with us.
Now we'll start coiling our craft cord to do our bottom of the basket. We're going to start by pinching it between your fingers and turning it around, and you have to really hold this tight. When this gets big enough, then we can lay it down on our table and turn it. I like to just make it big enough that I can easily grip it while it's under the foot of the machine. Now I'm going to just put a pin right in the edge, and this is going to hold it in place. Now that I have the bottom of our coil wrapped, we're ready to put it under the sewing machine, and I've secured it here with a pin. I'm going to stitch straight across with a straight stitch just to baste it in and make the center of this much easier to hold on to. I'm going to stitch it in a couple of different directions. Now that we've basted in one direction, I'm just going to baste across in another direction, and this will hold this nice and securely while we begin our middle. Let's go back to the center, and I'm going to select a zigzag stitch, and I have this set for about, I want a 4 width and about a 2 length. I'm also going to set my needle down position because when I'm doing corded baskets, I always like to stop with my needle down so I don't lose my place. Just lift your presser foot and turn the coil. Now I'm keeping this coil centered in between the presser feet. There's a little line on your presser foot here, and this is going to show you right where the 2 coils should meet. This one area here we're just keeping loose. We're just sewing right now the area that we've basted. We'll just continue around till we get out to the side that has no more basting. we're just going to continue sewing our coil for our base. I'm guiding this with my right forefinger, and I'm keeping the coils so that they meet directly in the center of the presser foot. And we'll just continue in this manner until either our coil is big enough for our base or until we want to change colors, which is what we're going to do in just a moment. Now I can see that our fabric is getting to where we ended it. I'm stopping with my needle down, and I want to add some hot pink onto this edge. So I'll take a strip of our accent fabric, and again a little bit of glue, and we'll just continue to wrap right where our previous fabric ended. And you can also put a little pin here to secure. And now our sewing machine needle and our foot are acting as our third hand and holding our fabric. I'm going to wrap this accent color until the length will reach all the way around the circumference of our circle. When we get down to the end, I'll first secure this with a pin to see if I have to add more or if I have enough. And we can check this simply by rolling it around. I can see that I'm going to need another little bit. You can see when I turn this around it. It doesn't quite come to where we began. We want our colors to begin and end in the same place. So when I come back, I'll have the other color put on.
Stay with us. Sharon will be right back.
And here we are, back to where we began our accent color. Now we're ready to shape the sides of the basket. From this position, we're going to move our circular piece up to the side, and I like to have it touch the side of the sewing machine. And we're going to continue stitching. Just be sure that you keep your coils lined up in the middle of your presser foot so that your zigzag stitch is equally on one half of each. You can see the side of our basket starting to take shape. And whenever we get it going good is when we always run out of covered craft cord. So now we're going to stop. I'm going to leave this right in the position it's at and continue to wrap the rest of my cord so that we can see the sides of our basket. We're just going to continue sewing around in a circle. And as you can see, the sides of our basket have really started to take shape. And in a moment here, I think we're just about ready to reach the end of our rope. Literally. Here's the end of our rope. Now, I want to show you how to join on another length of craft cord. Our craft cord comes in 50 feet rolls, and generally that's enough to do a whole basket. But I started with a shorter piece because I wanted to be able to show you this tip. First, take your Scotch tape and wrap it around so that it's nice and snug. At this point, we are going to remove this from under the foot because we need to splice two ends together. Now, I will cut this right in the middle of the tape. Now we'll take our other piece of tape. And this end is not frayed too badly, but it will be if I don't tape it. So let's just roll this around and cut it off so it's nice and even too. Now I'm going to butt these two ends together and place them under my presser foot and just with a zigzag sew them together. First thing I'm going to do is lower my feed dogs so that they don't go anywhere. And we're still just using a zigzag stitch. Stitch a little there and move over. Now we've secured our cord, and we're going to be able to wrap, and it will be just as if it were the same piece of cord. So now you can see how easily corded baskets are made on the sewing machine. I have here our finished basket with the handle and the brim. And I'd also like to show you some other ideas that you can use with the craft cord. This is going to be a basket to just serve bread on the table, and I've made two little handles that come out from the side. There's a lot of open work designs that you can do. This is a very easy one with a zigzag effect. This is also on an Easter basket. One of my first projects, and one that I particularly like, are our paper plate holders. These will hold a regular paper plate, and it makes it easy to serve your summertime outdoor barbecues. And you know, at the end of the season, you know those wicker ones, they end up full of baked beans and potato salads. These you can just throw right in the washing machine and wash them, and they're ready to go again for the next time you're using your best china. I've had a lot of fun with the technique that we learned today, and I'm sure you will too, just as soon as you give it a try. I've also enjoyed visiting with you today. In the coming weeks, we're going to have some exciting guests. We're going to learn lots of new sewing techniques, and we'll continue with some of the old. And they'll all be heirlooms by design.
Heirlooms by Design has been brought to you by Capital Imports, by Omnigrid, and by Quilts Plus. If you'd like more information on the supplies and techniques used in today's show, then drop us a note to Quilts Plus, 1211 Noble Street, Anniston, Alabama 36201. That's Quilts Plus, 1211 Noble Street, Anniston, Alabama 36201. Sharon will be back with more Heirlooms by Design next week.